What's up, everybody? Here's something you probably haven't heard, and that in itself is a bit of a red heifer. If you've ever heard that term, it means it's something that's incredibly rare. But the rabbis in Jerusalem received 5 red calves last year, and if they stay perfect and unblemished, they'll be eligible for sacrifice coming up pretty soon. And this has to take place in order to start the 7 years of tribulation talked about in the Bible. Now, I know a lot of people don't care what the Bible says, and therefore this has nothing to do with them, but let me tell you this. If the CEO of BlackRock and State Street and all of the richest, most powerful people in the world believed that Zarthon the Destroyer would come after they rolled 3 sevens, and that was the sign for them to nuke New York City in order for Zarthon to come, well, if you live in New York, you might be a little concerned about what these rich, powerful people think. So it doesn't matter if you believe in the Bible, they do. And right now, they're in possession of something that they haven't had for over 2,000 years, according to the official timeline, however long ago Jesus really was. And that is not one, but 5 perfect red calves that are potential red heifers. So let me explain here. They say from the time of Moses to the time of Jesus, there were 9 perfect red heifers total, and there has been 0 since then. Numbers 19 talks about a purification ritual where the Israelites are to bring Moses a perfect red heifer without defect or blemish. And the short version is that it's to be sacrificed and the blood mixed with living waters, which just means water that runs, and this can be used to purify a priest. This is required before any Judeans can, I guess, even step foot on the Temple Mount. I guess I'm not so sure about that part, but it's definitely necessary for the building of the third temple. And just so you know, right now, the Muslims control the Temple Mount, and they have their most holy church, the Dome of the Rock, on top of there. Now, this is supposed to be the location of Solomon's temple, the first 2 temples, and I'm not going to get into the theories about whether or not that's actually the right place, but let's say it is. In order for the Judeans to get their way and build their third temple, the Dome of the Rock has got to go. So that's going to make a lot of Muslims really angry. That act in and of itself could start dub Trey. So here's where things currently stand. Anybody really interested in this can go check out Nelson Walters' channel here. He's actually kind of got insider info on what's going on. I've kind of been keeping track of this for about the last year or so. And this all started because a group of American ranchers, led by this guy, decided that they would start looking for perfect red heifers in American stock. To qualify, they have to be perfect without blemish. They can't have a single white hair, a single black hair. If they got an ear tag like they do with all American cattle, that disqualifies them. That's a blemish. If they accidentally ran into a barbed wire fence and scraped themselves, they're disqualified. So this is extremely rare to have a perfect red heifer. Also, by the Bible's definition, it means a cow that is 2 years and 1 day old or older. So this rancher and his buddies were on the lookout for these. I got to say, I was just reading yesterday a book from the late 1800s, and I'll just say this. At that time, 100 years ago, American Protestants would have never dreamed of helping the Judeans. They have done an amazing marketing campaign on the minds of Americans. But last year, this guy reported that on September 15th, 2022, they had 5 perfect red heifers. Well, red calves that or potential heifers. They got a hold of the rabbis. They flew over and inspected them and said, well, yeah, that qualifies. We'll take them. So they took possession of them. They were 1 year old at the time. So coming up, I believe next month, they'll be of the appropriate age. And 3 of them are still perfect and without blemish. Remember, if they grow one single white hair, then they're disqualified. They took these calves to a secret location because this is a really big deal to them, okay? They've been waiting a long time for this. So they took them to a secret location, and they've even been training priests how to do the proper ritual. They've been practicing with goats. And now we're a month away from them being old enough to qualify for this ritual. The location of this is important too. It's required to be on the Mount of Olives overlooking the Temple Mount. And once again, the American rancher and his partners have purchased the land on Mount of Olives that qualifies. Now, I'm not sure why the American rancher and his associates had to purchase this land, but it's being kept a big secret. It's possible that I'm just going to call them the Canaanites because it's a sensitive topic on here, but it's possible that the Canaanites that the Judeans have kicked out of this area kept all of the land on the Mount of Olives specifically so that they couldn't perform this ritual. I don't know. It may just be that they were able to put it in someone else's name that wouldn't cause any red flags to go up. Anyway, they have the land that fits the description. They still have 3 calves that within a month will qualify for this. And let me just ask you, if this was something that you and your people have been waiting for 2,000 years, would you wait 1 day past the 2-year and 1 day mark? I wouldn't. I'd do it the very day because that's one more day that they could grow a white hair or get pricked by a barbed wire fence, which I'm sure they're not in barbed wire. I bet they're in a padded room. But this is really interesting to me because, it is supposed to be the very first stage of the 7 years of tribulation, at the end of which is supposed to be the return of Jesus, which the Judeans don't believe that. They don't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, but I think this is supposed to set everything into motion to where at the end of the 7 years, their Messiah comes. Now, another aspect of this is the covenant with the many, which has to do with the One World Gov and the implementation of the beast system, which I think we're already living in. And next year, September 2024, just 2 months before the U.S. Process, they will hold a Summit of the Future meeting where member nations will adopt a pact for the future. And down at the bottom, you see our common agenda. That's the new wording for the old Agenda 21, which was then moved to Agenda 2030, which is now just our common agenda. Evidently, JoJo has already signed us up for this, but this is what they've been going for the whole time with everything that's going on, because once triggered, the emergency platform would give them the ability to actively promote and drive an international response that places principles of equity and solidarity at the center of its work. And it would bring together the stakeholders of the world, including academics, governments, private sector actors, and international financial institutions to ensure there's a unified global response to the crises. By the way, stakeholders is the new word for comrade. 100 years ago, people that used the word comrade are now using the word stakeholders. But this effectively hands all power over to them in the event of a, quote, global shock. Well, what qualifies as a global shock? A major climatic event, a future PD, a global digital connectivity disruption, a major event in outer space. That one's my personal favorite. His is unforeseen risks. But let's go back to that for a second. What major event in outer space would constitute them taking control of everything? I'll just let you figure that one out. But basically, any event that they decide to pull off fits into these categories. Should something unforeseen, wink wink, happen, then it would initially be set for a finite period, but at the end of that period, the Secretary General could extend the platform. So at the current rate we're going, the U.S. will sign up for this next September, provided nothing drastic happens between now and then. And I think that Nelson is quite dead on with saying that this qualifies as the covenant with the many. He evidently talks to the rancher guy quite often, so he is getting the inside information on what's going on. And if I hear next month that this ritual has taken place, then I'll do a quick video on it. But I can see from the comments on the various videos I watch, everybody's spider sense is kind of going off. Mine too right now. kind of waiting on something big to happen. And you got to look at the situation we're in here in this country. They have to do something by next November. They know they can't pull the same trick again, even though they're ramping up the rhetoric for the 2.0. But I would just about bet money right now that within the next year, we're going to see something crazy go down. Honestly, up until the last couple of years, I didn't think the Oval Office was that important. I thought it was a little more symbolic, but evidently it is because they doing everything they can to keep that grasp on things there. And yeah, we've got a once in a 2,000 year red heifer, three of them. And if it was me, I wouldn't wait one day longer if that's what I truly believe needed to happen, you know. So I would say that if nothing happens to these cows, then next month they're going to be starting the actual real Armageddon. How crazy is that? Anyway, there's a lot of really weird stuff going on that I wish I could talk about. I may, if I have the time and energy, I may have to get a rumble out, but heads up and on a swivel, stay stocked up for whatever may come along, which includes, what did they say, interconnectivity disruptions. Anyway, interesting times for sure. Static out.